Station. It's a night meeting work session.
Okay.
Everyone's already risen, so if you all join me in the pledge. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's try sweets instead.
I need some sugar.
There were some
Tired, been up for a while.
One of the favorites.
No, that's all right. Are we live? Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Monday, March 7th, 2022 work session of New Britain Township. Let's see, chair comments. I have none. Next on the agenda is subdivision land development projects, informational only.
We have none to talk about today.
And we have none. Item number 5 on the agenda, zoning hearing board applications.
None to talk about today.
Yay. Number 6 on the agenda, presentation items, informational only.
Still nothing to talk about today.
Wow. Okay, we are checking them off. Item number 7, information items. A, departmental reports, administration.
And here's where it goes off the rails.
Yay.
So I wanted to use this meeting as a beginning point to talk about a couple of things that we've got cooking on the administration side. And it is a way to get some feedback from the board and help guide staff on coming up with some really good approaches to some difficult situations. As I'm looking at it, if the chair would be okay, I'm going to skip over Coleman Property and maybe talk about that last.
That's fine, because I think I should talk about that as well.
If we
So
can just move into some of these other things, let's just start clicking these things off.
you want to start at the bottom, get the easy one out of the way?
Sure. Let's go in reverse. If you remember, several months ago, the board passed a resolution authorizing township staff to sell township property via municipal bid, public auction, so long as the cost of those items never exceed, a single item exceeded $2,000. Well, we had an item that exceeded $2,000, much to our surprise. One of the former police cars, a 2011 Crown Victoria, sold in excess of $2,000. So $2,250. So just as an FYI, there was a memo that was circulated last week, and you will see this as a board action item in 2 weeks, just to authorize the sale. Any questions about that? All right. Oh, you didn't want to take this one? I was gonna.
If you'd like to handle it.
You are the consortium materials bid guru. The next thing, Bucks County Consortium materials bid update. I don't know if most of you or all of you know, Mike Walsh, Assistant Manager Walsh, is the person that creates the bid, runs the bid, selects the app, awards the bid. He's the one who does everything, and it's pretty amazing the amount of work that he does on behalf of the consortium. This is for all municipalities that are a part of the consortium. I just wanted to give a shout out to Mike for running with that. The fact that I don't know much about it shows me that he's doing a heck of a job, because I don't need to be involved with it. It just runs itself. So I've asked Mike to come prepared to just give the board a rundown of the results, because there will be an action in 2 weeks to approve the New Britain Township role in that. Mike.
So thanks, Matt. As Matt said, we typically bid a ton of different commodities with the consortium. It allows us to leverage our purchasing power with a number of other municipalities and authorities to help us get the best prices for things that need to function on an annual basis. Fuel, salt, roadway materials, things like that get bid out. So on the 25th, we had a bid opening for the consortium materials bids. Because of COVID and everything going on in the world, a lot of our prices have gone up fairly significantly. Specifically, blacktop is an increase of $7.45 per ton from last year. And I think we're lucky right now to lock that in with the way fuel prices are going to be headed in the coming months. So Eureka Stone Quarry was our low bidder on that, $54.94 per ton this year. So staff is going to recommend that the blacktop be awarded there. Also, the stone materials, Chalfont Quarry was the lowest bidder on a number of those stone, on the majority of those stone items. The board was circulated along with this memo, that bid tabulation. So there were so many different varieties of stone. I wasn't getting into specific prices. If the board has any questions, we can reference that if need be.
No, those are the weeds that I'm happy to let you handle.
Talk about the different stone sizes at all?
Thank you.
Debate the merits of one versus the other?
Do you use crushed concrete?
Very good. Thanks, Mike. Before I move into Keller Road Bridge, I wanted to bring to the attention, the board's attention, the memo and draft resolution that was provided to you all this morning. I forgot to add this to the agenda last week, and it's something that I would like to get in front of the board for authorization at the business meeting in 2 weeks. And this is our, I should say, semi-annual attempt at transferring money from the operating fund into the reserve fund. I believe we did not do that in 2021. The last time we did it was in early 2020, right? 2020. So this is just transferring excess cash balance from operating funds into reserve funds. First one we are recommending is $500,000 from the general fund operating account into the reserve fund account. So that money still stays inside of the general fund, capital G, capital F, just moving it from one bank account to the other. There was a point in time when doing that would benefit the township because interest rates would be significantly better in a long-term reserve fund, but not so much anymore. We're not seeing any realization of increased interest. And the other one is to transfer $100,000 from the Parks and Rec fund operating account to the Parks and Rec capital account. So again, it stays inside of the fund, capital F, the 07 fund. So there aren't any accounting issues there. There's no interfund transfers. This would be a good way to bring down the operating balance of the Parks and Rec account into the more long-term capital account, as a way to help fund some much needed investments in the future. So take a chance, take a moment or two over the next 2 weeks and read through this and just let me or John Bates, the finance director, know if you have any questions or have any concerns or want further clarification. Moving on, Keller Road Bridge. I do not have specifics to discuss with the board today regarding Keller Road Bridge. This is another one of those recurring agenda items that I'd like to keep on the agenda until we have a better idea of where to go. I want to update the board that Ryan Cressman did a deep dive and found the original file for the existing Keller Road Bridge, and I've shared that with the township engineer. And we are also we're also looking at best approaches to remedy the situation. There's some things on it that were IDA related. If you've been up there recently, the gabion baskets that were part of holding the stream banks, those have all collapsed as a result of IDA. And I believe we can get some PEMA funds to help us mitigate or restore the washed out gabion baskets. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get any PEMA money to help us repair Keller Road Bridge since those issues were pre-existing. Interestingly enough, the file that we found, it was a temporary bridge. Mid-90s, still there, temporary. Interestingly enough, the company that built the bridge is still in existence and they still make these types of bridges, and it's a Bailey bridge design. And so I am in the process of contacting this company to see how much it would cost to do a new Bailey bridge to replace it as is. I'm also working with the township's planning and zoning, assistant planning and zoning officer to develop a sketch of what it would look like if we close the bridge, since the township has existing open space where the bridge is, and create 2 parking lots / turnaround areas to open up that open space for resident accessibility. I just don't have anything for the board to look at this time. Just wanted to give a quick update as to what I've been working on and hoping to have this conversation at the next workshop.
I have a question. I don't. Why was a bridge, there was no bridge there, when one was put in the 90s as a temporary bridge? Was there to be a permanent bridge, or was this just? for
There was a
some
bridge
pro-
there before
There
that.
was a bridge there
Okay.
before, and it was a plank bridge. And that
Okay.
bridge that was there was, I mean, and I use that term loosely,
Okay.
bridge. It was like a bridge that you would go over when you're up in the mountains, like very plank bridge, lots of noise. I don't even know if there was much of guide rails going across it. So this was an upgrade to what was there. It's unfortunate that it was a temporary solution. I can't find anything in the documentation that said that a permanent solution was in the works. This was a response to a bridge that was structurally deficient, and this was a way to get it up and running quickly.
So, I've mentioned to you that you need to talk to the ambulance and the fire company in terms of emergency management in regards to this bridge being closed, open, whichever. I would also ask them to check back and see if they have anything in their records, because they used to do a really good job of keeping their records at the fire company, whether or not they were involved in the request to upgrade that bridge because of new weights of fire apparatus and whatnot. So even Randy might, I don't know if you've asked Randy about this or not. Because as the fire apparatus grew larger and larger and heavier, it's possible that they might have had to go from the plank to a more temporary permanent structure. Sturdier structure. Who knows?
I'm going to coordinate with Chief Clouser on EMS, just talking about traffic and weight limits and where we go from there. I know the police department has put out traffic counting devices on the bridge a couple months ago. And so they're already aware of the issue. We certainly coordinating with Chief Clouser as we move towards a better solution for Keller Road Bridge. Any other questions on Keller Road? Okay. Now we're getting into the meat and potatoes of the agenda, the next two items. Walters Road Culvert. And so this is something that I do have information for the board to digest and hopefully provide a direction for the staff to move forward with for a solution of the Walters Road Culvert that is currently washed out. Now, the culvert is still there. I should say the road over the culvert that is currently washed out. Before Craig give me the stink eye that, the culvert's still there. It was designed perfectly. Because it is, and the culvert is, I think that thing would have withstood a storm twice as large. If you remember, we've discussed this in meetings past, and a planner type, I'm always trying to make sure we invest the township's money in the best solution for each issue. And given that the Walters Road culvert had washed out, the road over the culvert had washed out in subsequent years, it was a reason enough for me to pump the brakes and say, you know what? Let's examine this issue and examine why it's flooding instead of just continuing to throw good money after bad, repairing this road. And every year, maybe every other year, when the next tropical storm comes through, it's going to get washed out and the township will be forced to rebuild it. Through the remnants of Ida, FEMA offered a significant amount of money for damages. The township is in the process of examining and discovering how much reimbursement is available to us for everything that we did in response to Ida, one of which is Walters Road Culvert and Keller Road. We have everything that we have done, work hours, materials for road bank restoration, road cleanup, tree cleanup, with the exception of two things, Walters Road Culvert and Keller Road Bridge. Since these are two significant projects, we have been dragging our feet a little bit with FEMA because we didn't know what direction they would encourage us to take. We had a meeting with them a week and a half ago. All these moving parts to say, my staff recommendation to the board is to not go forward with developing a solution that is more flood accepting. Remember, we talked about that in previous meetings on how to design a solution that would, the culvert would function, but we can design a road that spans the culvert that would be more withstanding of a flooding event. Working with the township engineer, he and his staff have developed a solution that would be quite costly. We believe the solution is a good solution that would enable the stream to flood. We would have barricades that would come out. Public Works would close off either end in a flood event. The stream would flood. It would then recede. Public Works would go back out, make sure the debris was cleared from the culvert, open up the gates, and away we go. No disruption to the road. That's costly. And from our final conversations with FEMA, we are not confident that if we go down that path, that we would be able to get that reimbursed. So there's a magic study that needs to happen for FEMA and PEMA to potentially authorize reimbursement of upsized solutions to what was there. And that's called an H&H study, hydrology and hydraulic study. And the township engineer and his office have the abilities to do that. And it's about a $25,000 study that happens, that looks at not just the water flow, and Craig, jump in if I'm butchering this at all. If it looks at the water flow, not just at that point, but upstream. And this is where mitigation dollars through PEMA can be helpful to the township. And then I'm confident that there's a good chance that we can get that study paid for and reimbursed by state PEMA, since we're looking at mitigation efforts upstream. Do that concurrently with an in-house solution that our township's public works superintendent developed to restore the road using in-house resources and design, working in hand in glove with the township's engineer, structural engineer, to make sure it exceeds road specifications. If we do that in-house, that would be about a $75,000 investment that would be reimbursed by FEMA, because that would be an in-kind replacement. So we've got replace the bridge, replace the culvert, the road over the culvert with as is, using in-house with about $75,000 materials and time invested in it, reimbursed through FEMA and PEMA. I'm confident that we could, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm confident that it would be 100% reimbursed. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
At the same time, authorize the township engineer and his staff to perform the H&H study, do those two things in concert. The reason I'm saying that is that one of the points of feedback that FEMA provided to us when we were asking about a more robust solution, he said, look, FEMA will not tell you what you can and cannot do. However, we do need some sort of documentation that defines why you need that thing. So if you do an H&H study and it comes back that the culvert is perfectly sized, guess what? We're not going to pay for a more robust response. However, if you have an H&H study that says, yeah, there are things that are preventing this culvert from functioning properly, then yes, we would be more likely to reimburse you for a much better, much more robust solution than what's there. The idea is that we do two things: get the road open, get a solution to the existing damaged road, do our planning exercise and get that H&H study done. So not if, when the next time the culvert floods and there's damage to the road, we have that H&H study that we can then provide to the FEMA and PEMA and say, look, we do need to do a much better, more robust solution to this. So we're not sitting here saying, boy, I wish we had that H&H study to define why we should be doing a more robust flood accepting road. So first of all, any questions on what I've explained? Second, I'm looking for the board to give us direction that you support this direction so we can move forward with it, so we can craft a motion for 2 weeks, giving us the green light, because it's going to be, as we discussed earlier, staffing issues is going to be an issue, and making sure that we have enough people and resources to do it. And it's not going to be a quick project either. It's going to be several months worth of work and material to get the culvert functioning. And do you have any questions about the H&H study? anything that I've talked about? Is there any questions, concerns, other issues that you'd like staff to address before moving forward?
So I'm just going to throw it back at you to make sure I understand the process.
Yep.
We will fix the bridge as it is now with FEMA funds,
It's not a bridge,
culvert,
just for
sorry.
the record.
Yep.
Thank you.
And it's the road over the.
Yes, the
culvert's
road.
Perfectly
The
fine.
culvert's fine,
Culvert's
the road's
perfect fine,
gone.
yeah. So fix the road, fix Walters Road over the culvert. We will do that process. In the meantime, we will also then do the H&H study for the next time it happens. So we are actually not re-engineering the road at the moment. We are just going to put it back together as our engineer had engineered it from the last fix. Correct, am I correct in that?
Everything
timeline.
except, I don't know one answer. You may be correct, but I'm gonna look to those two over there. Do you want the study done before Ryan does his work? Because I have some feedback already that maybe the stone size, when you do that flood study, you get velocities. That's the key to the road and the eddies, and that's why the road overtops. So I think over a 2-year storm, the road, for our attorneys that hasn't heard the story, the road overtops after the 2-year storm. The culvert can handle 5-year storm, but not all the water goes through it because it goes over the road. The road's so low. And the swath of the floodway is 300 feet wide and your road does this. And to build, and Matt went through this before, to have all the water go through a box culvert, you're talking $2, $3, $4 million at this point. When this first happened, our structural guy quoted Eileen at 2.7 million, just to get maybe a 25-year storm work. That's the magnitude we're talking. It's not worth it to elevate the arch or that. However, the study, if we did it, we could do it this spring/early summer and get the actual velocities and look at the creek upstream and downstream, like Matt said. And that may help a little bit with reinforcing doing what I keep looking at public works, at what Ryan's gonna do. If he wants, I think it's better to do it in the fall. I don't know if that's better for Ryan or not in the summer.
You mean
Do the
fix the bridge?
construction.
Sorry, the construction, and then we could do the study first, and he could have that study done prior. Now, if not, you want the road open, he goes, we'll help him right now, and we'll do the study later. The study can happen, the survey can happen this summer. I can work with Matt on the budget. It's the survey cost that going 300 feet upstream and downstream, which nobody's done before. That's the cost. The third of that price is actually the survey work.
So
And
you're
then
saying that doing the study will actually help us?
it will help.
reconstruct
I'm gonna
the
tell you right
road.
now, my structural engineer and all my engineers have said, if we have a study, we can help. Because we'll know and we'll also know which side, it'll tell us which side of that culvert, which side of the road is getting hit the most. And also if all the waters will, now people that live there may know this answer, but I need it quantified. Maybe the force and the pressure is all on the right side of the culvert versus the left, that we gotta, really look at that. So my opinion or my recommendation is to do the study, authorize us to do the survey work right now, put the study together, and then we can adjust. Ryan, maybe Matt's gonna go with this, has a estimate of what's gonna cost to rebuild the road. The culvert's fine, but we got to reinforce the walls and protect the road. So that's really, you said the study was done later. I don't know if that's something Matt and Ryan talked about yet.
In Matt West said, I wanted to deliver a solution to the board that we could act on now. If you authorize us to move forward with restoring the culvert, the road over the culvert, we can do that. We have the resources to do that. At the same time, it's not, both two things are separate and yet they're connected, right? You have the restoration of the road and you have the H&H study. H&H study, you can authorize the engineer to do H&H study today and they can start on it. That still doesn't, we can still do this concurrently. It would be beneficial to have that H&H study because it might then let us tweak the in-house solution that much more. I didn't want to be in the position to recommend to the board delaying the opening of the Walters Road culvert. That's a decision the board would have to make. I've heard feedback from the board that you wanted staff to come up with a solution to get this road open as soon as possible. I have done that. How we want to do it, that's at the board's discretion. If you communicate to us that you would rather it stay as is until that H&H study comes back, that we can then design an even better solution in-house, we can do that too.
And it may say, hey, everything's fine. I mean, we know we're only talking 2 and a 5 year storm capacity here. We're not talking
Right.
larger storms. This isn't about a capacity. It's just about just reinforcing the road. The road has to be rebuilt, like you said.
How long would it take to do the study?
It's gonna take to get on the survey schedule 3 to 4 weeks. So say within a month, we have the data back, and then we'll start putting the survey plan together, and then that'll get kicked over to the design engineer who does the study. So, you know, again, it has to get squeezed into other projects, not just New Britain Township projects, but I can get a more definitive answer. I know I can get the survey right away within a month. That's the most critical. That also is cost. So if you want to spread out the cost, we can do some survey that we have that cost, and then we can over the summer work on the study. It doesn't have to all happen like Matt said right away or concurrent, but if you want the road open this summer, then no, you need to get the road open and we'll do the study afterwards.
Ryan? When would be the best time to do this paving and restoration work? Can we start it in September or October? Can you wait that long, or is that getting a little out of season?
As long as the weather holds off, I don't see that to be a problem.
Our structure engineer recommended exactly what you said. Sorry to interrupt, but September, October, because the flow, you want the flow lower. You're not gonna do it in the spring. They're crazy busy in the summer and spring as it is. So it's a work issue too, a workload issue for him.
So
Late summer, early fall would be better.
My only issue with that is everyone's forgetting September and October is prime tropical season,
Yeah.
where we're gonna get the 100-year storm. So they're gonna have it all
Hopefully it comes through early.
open, then we're gonna get that
Well, we're hoping
storm.
the road would get washed away and then we just totally, that was my,
You know,
So
and-
another aspect to consider is that I am not. My sense is that FEMA won't like us delaying the project much further because there is a window of time for this reimbursement. So the longer we go, they're already up our, you know what's with what we already have and are asking about status of what we are going to be doing for both of these things. So that's another aspect that if we kick that to the fall,
that's true.
I don't think FEMA is gonna be too happy with that, nor would, therefore potentially resulting in the tap being turned off and us not getting reimbursed for that expense.
Well, can I add
Yeah,
to, so this will help you a little bit, because that's a good point. I don't even, you know the actual number yet. We don't even, Matt and I were talking Friday. For this project, we're not sure of a number yet that they'll approve. They may say only 75,000 versus we need 100, right?
Since it's a reimbursement, it's like they don't. We need to show them how we did it and why.
So Matt and I were talking on Friday about
Yep.
probably construction is 75-ish. And then let's say engineering studies, I mean, is another 25. So we're at $100,000 for this. We'd be reimbursed. Let's say that's our wish list. It's not gonna make or break it. To me, what you guys just said, just get the road open and get the road fixed. Everybody knows if a 10-year storm or a 25-year storm or a hurricane remnants come through, which is what's happened the last couple of years, it's gonna get partially blown out again. But you're spending, like Ryan asked me, about 75,000 instead of 300, 400, 500,000. My structural engineer looked at reinforcing the road. I'm not gonna get into that design, but I showed it with Matt. We went through it staff. It's expensive, but it's not full blown putting in a big box culvert either, which would be millions of dollars. I don't feel you should be spending that much money on this road based on the traffic. Matt and I both agree with this. I think you should go fix it, get the road open. You have to worry about emergency services. Can you imagine if there's something up there and this road's still down and we're in the fall and we do have a storm and that, it's up to the workload and staff of Public Works if they can get that open. We'll hold their hand a little bit on some reinforcement at the bank. I'll have be available as needed, my staff, but get the road open, get reimbursed by FEMA. I agree with Matt on the delay. We didn't really talk about that, but the further you delay that, they're gonna start looking at things and questioning more things.
When do you see this falling in your schedule, Ryan?
What schedule? Two guys?
I'm asking you to take that into account because if we can push Gilmore to look at, like, if there's an alternative stone base you need to use or whatnot, it gives them a little bit of time to help you.
So up until a week ago, I was confident that we could get it done in the near future. now being down that second guy really threw a wrench into it. I would say that we can still get it done, but it's obviously gonna take longer.
So June
So-
start date? I mean, July, I mean, what, you know, if we can,
I mean, that's up in the air right now, given other discussions. What I would recommend, you authorize us to start the study, all right, today. You authorize Public Works to put it on their schedule.
Yep.
Now I'm acting like a planner, and that's not. So I'm stepping on his toes. I'm stepping on his toes now.
All good.
I will give updates of where we're at. I don't need to proceed to I want to get the survey started, get it done now. I can give you an update. I don't even need a full authorization of the whole study if you don't want to. If you just want to say, start getting the survey on schedule so we can get it. That takes a month. It could be 2 months out till I have that for you.
Well, the other thing is it'd be best to do that survey now, before we
Correct.
get all the growth.
My guy's ready to go. I already have an
Upstream.
estimate.
Mhm.
That spreads out your costs
Supposed to rain this
throughout
week.
the year. And then he can give you an update every meeting of how we're looking. In the meantime, we'll work with Public Works on the re-embankment reinforcement, which I think is really the issue of what size stone, do we grout it? And I can give him some recommendations. I forwarded what he prepared for Matt to my staff already and got some preliminary feedback, and I'll work with them on that. And that's, I think you should work in concurrent paths.
well, yeah, so just to reverse and clarify for a second, we are going to, we're gonna get reimbursed hopefully for the repair. Now, the $25,000 study, is that a reimbursable expense as well?
Possibly.
Possibly,
Yes.
okay.
But you need to do it anyway.
We need to run them concurrently anyway, which is fine. I mean, that's, you know, but are you comfortable with us passing a motion to start that process, even though this is a work session?
I am. I think it's important enough for you to do that.
Okay,
And I would ask for 2 separate motions just to separate them. One for the H&H study, to authorize the township engineer to do the H&H study. And then to authorize Public Works to move forward with the plan, working in coordination with the township engineer to replace the road over Walters Road.
As soon as possible.
Yes.
yes. We don't want to hear you have other municipalities you work for.
I'm not even sitting here versus.
And I just
I'll get it done.
just to, alleviate some of the stress, also, there was money in the 2022 budget for both Walters Road and Keller Road bridges. So we do have some money to work with to cover these costs prior to reimbursement.
All right, very good.
I'd like to just, for everybody's education, I know this, people asked this a year ago, and I just want to say, I told Matt, I'm going to keep educating the residents, everybody else. The original culvert was designed, was the existing culvert prior to us doing the replacement, could handle a 2-year storm. That road was so low, it could handle 223 CFS. This is going back for the last 50 years. We doubled the size, 2.5 times. That new culvert sitting there, the road's washed away. I didn't explain this before because I didn't have the numbers. That culvert capacity is sitting out there right now is 2.5 times the capacity of the existing culvert. So I know we kind of beat up the old staff and the engineer as well and all that, but the prior manager and staff, in before me, said there's no need to make the the opening any bigger because it goes over the road. So the road now, still, the pipe only handles a 2-year storm. Anything at a 5-year storm, it still goes over the road. There's no need to have a bigger, unless you redo the road and change elevation. So maybe I didn't explain that well enough, but I didn't have the actual numbers. But we increased the capacity from existing condition to now of the opening of 2.5 times. It's not a function of that, how big the opening is, a function of elevation.
It's also a function of the storm came through right after the road was done.
And then
basically.
on top
So-
of it, this happened twice now. Both have been remnants of hurricane. I was here for Floyd. We had lawsuits all over the place. Ferry Road was blown away, and the Shrine and the Pine Run community, and there's plenty of other places that I was called out to. I don't know if that culvert blew out or not. I'd love to talk to, I don't know if Ryan was around for Floyd, but the only time you're having issues on these roads is the hurricanes, the 500, you're talking 100-year, 500-year storms. They just aren't designed for that. Every township has that problem. You just have a lot of back roads that are oil and chip too.
Yeah.
You don't have you have a lot of oil and chip roads, dirt, and oil and chip. All right, I stuck my neck out on that a little bit, but I thought so. Other townships do not, and so the roads hold up. So sometimes we think stormwater design bigger pipes. It's what's around it. And once you've touched everything too, we just disturbed everything. It wasn't rooted, everything. So that's why it happened twice. It's really not a function of the pipe capacity. I can't see you justify spending 2.5, 3.5 million to redo this for the type of traffic that comes through it. See you spend the money elsewhere. So that's what Matt and I discussed on Friday.
I don't think we hold the engineer
No, I know.
accountable. I think
To
we
be honest with
hold
you, the residents, we get calls and. hey,
climate
you guys-
change
yeah.
accountable for the storms we've never had before.
But I didn't have the data too. I went back to the files. So you guys educate me why this, I need to educate the public too on why. this is happening.
Unfortunately, I think they're going to continue to occur. So
Yeah.
that's why it's important to do this study and be prepared for the future.
So if the board is interested in making a motion today, we first need a motion to amend the agenda to add 2 action items.
I make a motion to amend the agenda to add 2 action items.
I'll second.
Where we want to put those on the agenda? Do we need to specify or
We can just add them.
we're gonna add
If
them?
I'm amending the agenda, I will add a section called action items.
Okay.
So to add action items to the agenda. And, per the requirements, I'll have that updated agenda in an hour.
Okay.
This meeting will be posted.
So I have a motion to update or amend the agenda to add action items and to add 2 action items to the action items on the agenda. Wow. Is that good, Jeff? Is that all right?
That'll work.
I don't know what you said.
And obviously it was at the last minute because you were talking about it. There's some need to proceed quickly. So there's a rational basis for
Okay.
adding it to your agenda.
All right, thank you. So we have a motion. Is there a second? Huh?
I got Cynthia
Did
second.
you
I
already
did,
second? I'm
I
sorry.
did, that's all right.
Do I have a first and a second?
clarified.
Is there any further question or comment by the board? And since none of those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, now that we have action items and we have 2 of them on the agenda, do I have a motion to approve the action item of starting the H&H study for the Walters Road culvert?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I have a first and a second. Are there any further questions or comments regarding? Since none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. All right, I'm now looking for a motion to approve a coordinated effort between Public Works and Gilmore Associates, overseen by Matt, to prepare a plan to rebuild the Walters Road. So
I'll make that motion.
is there a second?
Second.
Did I get everything in that motion? Okay. All right, is there any other further comments or questions regarding the motion? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. All right, does that complete?
Thank you.
Do you want me to start, Coleman, real quick, since I kind of have been pushing you on this?
Sure.
Okay. All right, so the Coleman property is back on the agenda again. And the reason it's back on the agenda is that everyone may recall that at the last meeting that I attended, I gotta put that caveat in there. I brought up the fact that we needed to start moving on some of these township open space / park projects because they're just sitting and we're not actually progressing with anything. It's time to get off our derrieres and move forward. And I proposed to the board that we pass a motion to have the board and our professionals look into the cost of demolition improvements on the site and rehab of the existing farmhouse to turn it into a possible trailhead building for the trail and as part of the usage of the Coleman property. Subsequent to that, Matt has done a site visit and then rather frantically, before spending any of the township's money, put in his manager's notes for the week that he highly recommended that each supervisor go out with him and take a look at the property. And the reason being is that the old farmhouse is dilapidated. It's a wreck and it's probably a huge liability to the township in the condition that it's in. And that the added on outbuilding that's an apartment over some garages or storage space really isn't any functional any of any functional use to the township, because the water goes into the old farmhouse, the electric goes in the old farmhouse. To redo all of that work is going to cost, quite a few $1,000s. It's probably a waste of time and money on the township's part. So pending that, I've talked to Matt, and our recommendation now, based on everything, is to raise the site, turn the entire site just into a nice passive area, except for the pole barn and the parking area there, which can still be used by residents as an area to park and use the trail, and just let it go back to meadow, basically. It would probably be a better use of the township's money and resources than to try to do anything with that old house. It's horrible. And the modifications, they cut a door into the corner of an old farmhouse. They literally cut out the stone and put a door in the corner. I don't even know how structurally that's possible. So
Actually, so did our insurance people look at that property last year when they were doing their liability, and what was their recommendation?
They said at least the outbuilding needs to be taken down immediately.
Okay.
And I'm looking at it from, which is why I encourage you all to join me. Let me know when you'd like to come out, and I walked the entire property. It was slow going. And I tend to be an optimist. I just need to get my eyes on this and just kind of come up with a vision of what we could be using this for. I'm having a hard time trying to find any really good use for this place, aside from the trail. And especially from a structural standpoint, from a structure standpoint, the pole barn is the nicest thing on that property.
Yeah.
And everything else, while it looks nice from afar, it's far from nice. It is, it would be if we would want to restore it, this is the level that you would need to go through. You would need to disassemble it all and rebuild it. That's how structurally, it's an old farmhouse or old, a field stone house.
When we did the appraisal for the property, was the house looked at?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I don't want to go back in history.
Well, no, I just want to know, but if
It's a
our
sore
insurance
subject.
company has told us that this needs to come down immediately, it should have come down. But yes, I do definitely want to look at that property. I don't think the rest of this week is going to be.
It's money.
I just think it's
Good.
important for the board to put your eyes on it. Maybe I'm not seeing something that you all see.
Oh, no, you're.
It was, as I said, I'm an optimist. I try to, wow, just a little bit of work. It would be a significant, I think of the money pit, movie
Over 100 grand, I think, easily.
at least.
It's a shame because I was hoping that we might be able to use that as some sort of community center, but
No.
But keep the electricity and the water hookups, because it does have both of those hookups to the property, just.
Well, yeah, the pole barn still needs the electric. We'd have to do the work to get the pole barn, to get the electric over the pole barn. Craig is shaking his head over there.
any possible, I'm just gonna throw this out as a possibility, instead of us incurring cost of raising it, if that's what we decide to do. Perhaps we could find someone that wants to purchase it, take it apart and.
I don't know that there's anything, an old field stone like that. I don't.
People would pay for that
Maybe.
Fieldstone, I think
Yeah.
we could sell
So-
rubber mulch.
So here's the thing though. So let me I'm gonna throw this at Sean and Jeff. Anything we do to improve the site, and that includes raising, should be able to come out of open space funds, because we purchased the site with open space funds. So we're improving the site. So it's not a general fund expense. It's
I
an open
understand, but
space.
even open space funds,
Right.
why pay if we can get someone else to do it
Yes,
for us?
but there's a question of the legality of that as well, because we purchased it with open space funds. So now it's something that you run into
Okay, you
some,
need to look into that.
yeah.
You may use open space funds to make your improvements or lack of improvements if you're raising it as well, because you're maintaining that property.
It's up to 10%, I believe.
of the
Someone
existing
you-
account. Yeah.
What you can use.
Now, what about Mary Beth's question in regards to trying to sell off or ask somebody to come in since we bought that with public money? Can we do that?
Sure. I know
Okay.
that people buy old barns many times, redo the beams. You might have a buyer for fieldstone. I don't know the answer, but it's certainly worth exploring because it's not like you can go to the local quarry and get it.
And legally, we're allowed to do that?
Yes,
Okay.
you are.
Okay.
Township property.
So you can use those, that income that's derived from there to help offset the cost you're having
Whatever
to.
other.
remove the
Everything
rest.
else.
Even
Okay.
just a stone, there's gotta be someone that wants the stone.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
haven't-
glass.
I haven't even been
Oh, glass
inside
as well.
the building.
Oh,
And I know-
windows,
And I
people,
know,
all that stuff.
Brian,
is-
I'll take you. And he's like, it's not. He's like a horror movie.
Well, Halloween's coming up.
Yeah, there you go.
If you guys want to tag along.
Hey, Ryan, as bad as Epian?
I was just gonna say
As bad as what?
that.
What's that be?
He's
Probably never
There's a
been
pretty
there.
long
He's
pause
thinking
there.
about it.
He's not-
So, yes.
As bad as, okay.
Wow.
It
Get
might-
rid of the dumb thing now,
It might even be worse.
Wow.
that quickly.
Jeez.
There's sections of roof missing.
Yeah, it's bad.
Oh.
It's bad.
Right there.
Alright,
That was
so-
Epian too, so I mean.
There's an area where the fieldstone fell off of the side and instead of using fieldstone, they mortared brick in its place. I mean, it's a horror show. I don't know.
So the outhouse, that is just a normal prefabbed recent
The garage.
addition. That
It's like
could
a
come down
two-car
pretty
garage with-
easily.
Oh, you're talking the
The
addition?
apartment or
The apartment.
Whatever's not attached to the Fieldstone house.
It's a two-car garage with an apartment.
Okay, and that was a last 50 years construction. It's got no value. That could come down pretty easily.
So as I went into it thinking, okay, that would be a really good building for a trailhead maintenance, right? If there was a maintenance agreement for the Neshaminy Greenway Trail, that could be the headquarters. You have an office upstairs. You put the maintenance vehicles in the garage, but that doesn't exist for the Neshaminy Greenway Trail. There is no coordinated trail length organization that is managing it. So I don't think it would be a good resource for Public Works to have, or Parks and Rec to have an outpost there just for the little section of the Neshaminy Greenway Trail. It's out of the way. I don't think logistically, it would be, honestly, I could be talked into keeping that building, but I am, you'd have to talk to me pretty hard.
I think better just to turn it back to Meadow.
Yeah.
Just.
Open it up, keep it simple, and then maybe solutions and the
Then
grounds,
resources on Cotton Park.
the grounds itself is gonna need a significant amount of work. It's a mess, lots of invasive species, lots of briars. It was almost impossible to walk back to the creek. It's just overgrown, you can't get through it. It's gonna take a lot. And I did not find much redeemable. It's in a floodplain,
Goats.
so.
10,
Goats.
14, somewhere like 10 to 14, I think, acres.
What?
Coleman Property, isn't it like 10 to 14, somewhere in there? Is
I
it?
thought it was 40.
Yeah, I thought it was-
Oh, is it? I thought it was smaller than that. Am I just thinking of like the area around the houses then?
You might be because
It
it
goes all
actually
the
is
way back.
really.
Oh, that's
really
right. It
long.
goes all, it includes the woods. I keep forgetting it includes that whole woods area. Yeah.
To the creek.
It's all one parcel, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's like
I didn't think it was that many acres.
Yeah, it is.
I'll get it.
But it's, I'd say 2/3 of it's in the floodplain.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's why nobody could ever build there.
That's what I'm thinking. There's buildable and then there's the whole property. There might be only 5 to 10 acres actually built.
That might be what I'm thinking of, because we had a developer that came in
Right.
early
Yes.
Pulte tried to
2000s.
come in.
Yeah,
Pulte looked at it.
and he wanted to try to reclaim some of the
wetlands.
wetlands in the floodplain area.
And build a couple hundred homes.
I don't think it was that high, 30 something, 40 something homes.
40 or 50, you know.
Having a house that I think was built on reclaimed wetlands, it doesn't really work long term.
Okay, so do we need to do any action items at this point?
I'm not looking for any action items at this point. The action is an unofficial action. I would encourage you all to please schedule a time to meet me out there so we can take a look at it. I do believe that it's a significant enough resource that you all need to put it into the pedestrian perspective to see it with your own eyes.
Can we go two at a time? Is that allowable?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there any, I mean, I'm asking the rest of the board, is there any way everyone could do that before our next meeting so we can create an action item? So we're not still talking about this next month?
In the next 2 weeks.
You know, I think it's time to move on this. Like I said, I'm tired of us having this parkland
I
and we're
drive
not
past
doing
it
anything
every
with
day.
it.
I drive past it a lot, so I see it, and as you say, far away, it might look good,
Yeah,
but up close it doesn't.
what's,
Well, you know, Ryan and I will talk about in the meantime, costs to demo everything, what that would mean, you know, their capabilities, certainly, you know, coordinating with the township engineer from a structural standpoint, making sure everything's.
well, and what the mechanism is for putting out the farmhouse for reclamation as
Yep,
well.
right.
So,
39 total property, total acreage is 39.
Oh, okay.
It was a footway, it was a plan.
gotcha,
That's what I said. 30.
gotcha.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda under departmental reports is, thank you, Matt, police.
Try to match that.
Yeah, I don't really have a question.
Okay.
All right, thank you, sir. Next item on the agenda under administration. No, seriously, is it, can I move on or are we good? Okay. Ryan,
I don't really have a whole lot. to
okay, very good. Next.
I can elaborate a little bit. Obviously, with the warmer temps, our snow removal has been kind of non-existent, which has been great. We are in the process of repairing the second dugout. We did the first one is completed. The second one is in process. That should be done hopefully within, I'd say the next week or so. And we are doing our due diligence to keep up with the potholes in the meantime. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right. Anyone have any questions? If you take an in breath, I'm switching.
I have no questions. I think I've stated my issues previously.
The PennDOT stinks. Wait, you can put that on the record.
No, okay, I have a question. Do we have any potholes large enough that we could perhaps turn into a community swimming pool? Or is that 202? We have to
That's
talk to
202.
PennDOT. Okay.
Guess we all want to dig at PennDOT. Man, is that bad. Anyway.
Just for the record, I am not digging PennDOT. I have a good working relationship with PennDOT. Maintain.
All right, let's talk to them about Cedar Hill Road and anyway, next on the agenda, solicitors report.
We have talked with Matt. Matt's given us a priority list. As you know, Grimby and Thatcher had told us that they have weeks worth of work to get us all of your files over to Bagley Carlin. I asked Matt to give us a priority list of files that he thought we would need right away that we now are in possession of, and we're working to get those files for Grim, so we're up to speed on all of the township's active and pending projects as soon as possible. We're preparing ordinances to amend the township fire code and the township property management code to bring them into alignment with the recent upgrades or updates to the standardized international codes. Those will be prepared this week. Kay Weeder from Bagley Carlin, who you all have met, is scheduled to meet with Matt, I believe, on Friday to begin the long and arduous process of updating the township's employee manual. So you'll be happy to hear that that's getting started. And Jeff Garten and I have scheduled a time to meet with Matt and take a tour of the township guided by Matt to walk us through so we get a lay of the land on everything and also be able to put some eyes on some of the projects that you guys are talking about.
Okay. Jeff, is there anything to add or?
I asked him to make the report today, so I have nothing else to add.
Very good.
I wanted to sort of think, we had talked about maybe formalizing Park and Rec Committee and our new status as liaisons with our committees. Do we need to do that as an action item to say we should get our solicitor to start looking at formalizing resolutions?
Need an ordinance to set up the Park and Rec
Yeah.
committee.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would, that is a,
May not be a priority.
it's not a hot button issue. It
Mhm.
is, I would call that a second tier priority.
Okay,
It is something that, you know, once the new solicitor
Is up to
has their
speed.
sea legs. I'll be unleashing the second barrage of things for them. It just didn't rise to that first barrage, anytime where there's potential litigation.
Comes to top.
These are the things you need to know about.
Mhm.
Just some cleaning up of the ordinances that we need some help with. Just an overall reorganization of our code of ordinances could be helpful as well. But that's a whole nother story for the next couple months.
We'll get there.
All right, very good.
Nothing.
Board comments. I always go last, so you know what? I always start on the left. Can I start on the right this time? All right, Steph, go ahead. It's usually by the time it gets to her, everybody else has brought everything up.
No, I don't think I have anything.
Okay.
I'll pass to Bill.
I'll defer at this point too.
Thank you. I would again bring up the issue of the ARPA funds being used for reimbursing nonprofits for costs incurred during COVID. We had both ARC and the New Britain Food Lauder present to us last year. We were waiting to understand how we could use the funds. And I would suggest that the staff like to make a motion to have staff look into creating a policy for criteria for making donations to nonprofits.
Would we like to amend the agenda, add a third action item to do that?
Or
Or direct staff to do that for the
put it on
I
next?
thought we were gonna add that to the business meeting agenda. on the
Okay.
21st. Is that okay?
Right, just
Add that.
bringing it up
Okay.
again.
Okay. And I think you have enough consent on the board to proceed.
Thank you.
Yep, Cynthia,
Nope, pass.
I have two things. Sorry, one.
Well, he's added things from last week that he didn't get. to.
No, no, no.
Little thing.
Feel it out.
Wow.
Brr.
Tablets, do we have an update? Did that come out last week? when I
Yes, it
wasn't
did.
there?
Yes, it did.
Damn it.
It did. We discussed that.
We have
Next.
them in-house.
Okay.
We are working on coordinating with other municipalities on how they use them before we roll out this technology. And then we will dedicate some time for training with each of the supervisors on how to use the device and those expectations moving forward. Digital packets, how, like what format the digital packets will be and how we set those things up. So Mike has got them sitting on his cabinet. He is in the throes of all things electronic payroll system right now, which has been the highest priority since we're talking about people getting paid. And I don't want to be the person in between people and their money. So that is the highest priority right now. So that should be in the next month or two that we're going to get those up and running and rolling those out.
Gotcha.
Also, as a plug, if I could piggyback, we've got some good things. This is a little nugget I'm going to drop. Good things cooking on a new website.
Very good.
Stay
Very
tuned.
And I was kidding, I only have one. I said that to give Bill adjective. Next on the agenda is committee reports, Parks and Recreation Committee.
So not much to talk about here. Ryan talked about the dugouts, and the other thing I would add is that the playground, the replacement playground structure for North Branch Park is still on order, and we're looking, it's just COVID related. It's just taking a long time for delivery. So we're hoping late spring, early summer for install.
Very good. Is there any questions, comments? Okay. Public comment? Mike, do we have any actual viewers today?
Nope.
Ah. Okay. Any announcements from Matt?
Nothing further. Thank you.
All right.
Oh,
Pending
wait,
the.
yes.
Oh, you.
That's right. Monday? Check the website. 14th, blood drive.
Okay.
Here at the Township building.
Next Monday.
Monday.
Okay.
I believe we're close to capacity on that. I think the last time I looked, we had about 10 spots left to fill.
So if that's your thing, just check the Township's website for more details.
All right, very good. All right, pending a motion for adjournment, I will make the following announcement. The next meeting of the Board of Supervisors of New Britain Township will take place on Monday, March 28th, 2022 at 7 p.m. here at the Township Building. Agenda and meeting materials will be posted on the Township website prior to the meeting. newbritontownship.org. As well, a recording of today's meeting will
Is it the
be,
28th or the 21st?
21st. Is it type of-
Should be the 21st.
sorry.
Before we adjourn, Mr. Chairman, would you please announce you had an executive session?
Oh,
before
yes,
this
thank
meeting,
you. We did not do that. Yes. I-
Discussing personnel and other matters associated with items that can be discussed in executive session.
As what he just said, we had an executive session prior to this meeting. Thank you, sir. We did forget that. In fact, we'll, okay. Again, the recording of this meeting will be available on the Township YouTube page within the next 24 to 36 hours. At this time, then, I will take a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. You want to hit that? Are we offline?
Not yet.